A guy came over from England and needed a place to play, and I said, you know, come down, and he's kind of lurking in the background, but Stevie Winwood is...
Steve Winwood's now been making records for over 20 years. He had his first hit when he was 17 with the Spencer Davis Group. He then veered off to produce some wonderful psychedelic pop with Traffic. He then formed the not quite so wonderful supergroup Blind Faith with Eric Clapton, and then he went solo, living in almost total seclusion in the Gloucestershire countryside and bunging out an LP every now and again, entirely written, played and produced by himself.
Long before Steve Winwood's name was etched into British musical history, he was a teenager, hunched over a battered piano, trying to replicate the soulful ache of Ray Charles. For Winwood, Charles was more than a musician. He was the standard by which all others would be measured. Ray Charles had a profound influence on me, Winwood once reflected. He was the transition from jazz to R&B to rock and roll. His voice was pure emotion, and I tried to emulate that spirit when I was young. Winwood's early performances with the Spencer Davis Group carried this unmistakable imprint. Songs like Gimme Some Lovin' and I'm a Man showcased a voice that belied his teenage years, bursting with grit and feeling in a manner few British singers had ever managed. Listening back now, it's no surprise that people assumed he was a black American singer. Charles's ability to blur the lines between genres resonated deeply with Winwood. He showed that you could bring gospel, blues and jazz into something new without losing the soul, he told Rolling Stone in a later interview. Inspired by Charles, Winwood set out to create music that had technical finesse but never lost its humanity. However, Winwood's journey towards becoming a world-class vocalist came with its own barriers.
I mean, obviously, being a keyboard player and a guitar player, it doesn't always do myself any favours doing that, because I sometimes people don't know whether to see me as a guitar player or a keyboard player or a singer.
His love for Charles ignited a pursuit of emotional authenticity in music, but also exposed him to a major challenge: how to capture that same raw power without merely imitating it. In seeking his own authentic voice, Winwood was inevitably drawn to the sparse, hypnotic style of John Lee Hooker. Unlike Ray Charles's sweeping musical arrangements, Hooker operated in a raw, stripped-back world where every word carried the weight of lived experience. The blues singers like John Lee Hooker, Winwood explained to Blues and Soul magazine, they sang from somewhere deep. It was almost like another world. That depth was what I was aiming for. Hooker's influence helped Winwood refine his vocal delivery. It taught him restraint, the art of letting a single line linger in the air. Instead of crowding his performances with flourishes, Winwood learned the value of leaving space, of making silence as potent as sound. When Winwood transitioned into Traffic, this lesson became even more apparent. Tracks like Dear Mr. Fantasy and Pearly Queen showcased a singer no longer trying to impress with youthful exuberance, but communicating with a quieter, deeper authority. The mesmerizing quality of Hooker's blues shaped the atmospheric grooves that became Traffic's signature. Yet as Winwood found a more subdued strength in his singing, he faced a new creative challenge: maintaining a balance between minimalism and energy in a band environment that thrived on instrumental experimentation. To meet the demands of a more dynamic musical environment, Winwood turned once again to the blues for answers, this time to the roaring elemental force of Howlin Wolf.
I said, beat me in the bottom, bring me my running shoes.
If Hooker taught him subtlety, Wolf showed him the sheer power of unfiltered emotion. Howlin Wolf had a voice that could scare you and move you all at once, Winwood said in Uncut magazine. There was no pretense, it was pure heart. Wolf's throaty roar, capable of shaking the walls of any club, demonstrated to Winwood that vulnerability and strength were not opposites, but complementary forces. This emboldened him to stretch his vocal range into harsher, more urgent territories when the music demanded it. Songs like Medicated Goo and Shoot Out at the Fantasy Factory exemplify this evolution. There's a rasp, an almost desperate intensity in Winwood's delivery, drawing directly from Wolf's example. Yet he never abandoned the musicality at the heart of his voice, a balancing act Wolf himself had mastered. Nevertheless, by embracing this grittier side of his vocals, Winwood risked alienating fans who associated him with the cleaner soulfulness of his earlier work. The rawness opened new artistic doors, but also presented the dilemma of consistency in an evolving career. The conflict between evolving artistic expression and fan expectations was something Muddy Waters had navigated with effortless authority.
Well, you know the hoochie coochie man.
For Winwood, Waters represented a model of how to lead musically without needing to shout or force the issue. Muddy had this presence. You believed every word he sang, Winwood recalled during a BBC Radio 2 special. That authenticity is what every singer should aspire to. From Waters, Winwood absorbed the idea that true vocal power lies not just in the sound, but in the conviction behind it. Singing wasn't about technique alone, it was about embodying the message. Whether it was a desperate plea or a boastful strut, Muddy made it real. This influence crystallized during Winwood's solo career. In songs like While You See a Chance and Back in the High Life Again, his vocals carried a calm assurance, even as the arrangements became slicker and more polished. The emotional resonance was never sacrificed for pop sheen, because the grounding lesson of Muddy Waters remained at the core of his performances. Still, by moving towards a more refined, mainstream sound, Winwood encountered another dilemma: how to remain true to his roots while adapting to the demands of contemporary music trends. Finding the balance between authenticity and accessibility led Winwood to the enduring artistry of Sam Cooke.
All the answer, my friend, blowing, the answer, blowing.
While blues giants taught him grit and power, Cooke demonstrated how restraint and melody could be just as moving. Sam Cooke made everything sound effortless, Winwood said in Rolling Stone. There was so much soul in his phrasing. That taught me that you didn't have to shout to get across. Cooke's influence encouraged Winwood to refine his melodic instincts, to favor phrasing that was conversational, yet expressive. His later solo work, especially on tracks like Higher Love and Valerie, reflects Cooke's fingerprints, lines that rise and fall naturally, matching the ebb and flow of human speech. More than just vocal technique, Cooke also provided a template for navigating commercial success without losing one's musical identity. His songs were radio-friendly, but they never pandered. They remained honest. By internalizing these lessons, Winwood was able to achieve one of the rarest feats in popular music, to evolve across decades, from 1960s R&B prodigy to 1980s pop soul star, without severing the emotional lifeline that connected his earliest influences to his modern work. Steve Winwood's journey as a singer was never a straight path. It was a conversation across generations, held with 5 of the greatest voices in American music. Ray Charles taught him to chase pure emotion. John Lee Hooker showed him the value of minimalism. Howlin Wolf empowered him to embrace rawness. Muddy Waters modeled quiet authority, and Sam Cooke revealed the beauty of restraint. Each influence brought new lessons, but each also created new challenges, which Winwood met not by imitation, but by transformation. His voice, shaped by gospel cries, blues moans, and soulful croons, became one of the most enduring and flexible instruments in British music history. And perhaps the greatest tribute to his heroes is that when Steve Winwood sings, you don't hear imitation. You hear the living spirit of everything they taught him.